On March 28, 2025, the earth beneath Myanmar trembled. The tremors reverberated through the ground, shaking buildings and sending shockwaves across Southeast Asia. This was not just another tremor, a subtle shift of tectonic plates. It was a powerful earthquake, a magnitude 7.2, that left a trail of devastation in its wake. The epicenter of this seismic event lay approximately 50 kilometers northwest of Mandalay. It struck at a depth of 10 kilometers, its power amplified by its proximity to the surface. The tremors were felt not just in Myanmar but across its borders. Thailand, Laos, and even parts of Bangladesh felt the earth move. This earthquake was a stark reminder of the raw power of nature and the vulnerability of human civilization in the face of such forces. It was a day that shook Southeast Asia, leaving behind a legacy of destruction and a call for resilience.
The United States Geological Survey recorded the earthquake's magnitude at 7.2. This placed it firmly in the category of major earthquakes, capable of causing widespread significant damage. The earthquake's intensity was felt most acutely near its epicenter, northwest of Mandalay, where the ground shook with the greatest force. The earthquake's relatively shallow depth of 10 kilometers exacerbated its impact. The closer an earthquake's origin is to the Earth's surface, the stronger the shaking experienced on the ground. This shallowness contributed to the widespread damage reported in the earthquake's aftermath. Reports from Thailand describe swaying buildings in Bangkok, a testament to the earthquake's far-reaching power. Southeast Asia is a region familiar with seismic activity. The region sits on a complex network of tectonic plates, whose constant movement creates immense pressure and strain along their boundaries. Myanmar, in particular, lies at the intersection of the Indo-Australian and Eurasian plates. The collision of these massive tectonic plates has shaped the region's geography over millennia. It is also the driving force behind the earthquakes that periodically shake the region. The Indo-Australian plate is relentlessly pushing northward, colliding with the Eurasian plate. This ongoing collision builds up stress along the fault lines, which is periodically released in the form of earthquakes. This earthquake serves as a stark reminder of the ever-present seismic threat in the region. It underscores the importance of understanding these geological forces and implementing building codes and disaster preparedness measures to mitigate the impact of future earthquakes.
The earthquake's epicenter, located approximately 50 kilometers northwest of Mandalay, placed the city directly in the path of its most destructive forces. Mandalay, Myanmar's second-largest city and a cultural hub, bore the brunt of the earthquake's impact. Its proximity to the epicenter resulted in the most intense ground shaking, leading to widespread damage and loss. Buildings swayed violently, their foundations tested by the earth's tremors. Walls crumbled, roofs collapsed, and the cityscape was scarred with the wounds of the disaster. The earthquake's impact on Mandalay was a visible testament to the immense power unleashed from within the Earth's crust. The earthquake's epicenter was not a single point, but rather a zone of rupture along the fault line. This zone, encompassing an area northwest of Mandalay, experienced the most intense ground shaking, radiating outwards with diminishing intensity.
Section 2. The Earth's tremors measuring the magnitude. The earthquake's magnitude, a measure of the energy released at the epicenter, was a significant 7.2 on the Richter scale. This scale, a logarithmic measure of earthquake strength, means that a 7.2 magnitude earthquake releases approximately 32 times more energy than a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. The Richter scale, developed in 1935 by Charles Richter, remains a widely used method for quantifying earthquake magnitude. It provides a standardized measure for comparing the relative size of earthquakes, allowing scientists and seismologists to assess their potential for damage. The earthquake's magnitude 7.2 placed it firmly in the category of major earthquakes, capable of causing widespread devastation. Earthquakes of this magnitude are relatively rare, occurring approximately 10 to 20 times per year globally.
Section 3. The reach of the quake tremors across borders. While the earthquake's epicenter was located in Myanmar, its tremors extended far beyond the country's borders, shaking buildings and rattling nerves across Southeast Asia. The seismic waves generated by the earthquake traveled through the Earth's crust, reaching neighboring countries with varying intensities. In Thailand, to the east of Myanmar, the tremors were felt most strongly in the northern and western regions, closest to the epicenter. Reports from Bangkok, Thailand's capital city, described swaying buildings and a palpable sense of unease as the ground trembled beneath. The earthquake's reach extended even further, with reports of tremors felt in Laos and parts of Bangladesh. While the intensity of the shaking diminished with distance from the epicenter, the earthquake's impact was felt across a wide geographical area.
Section 4. A history of seismic activity, Myanmar's vulnerable position. Myanmar sits on a tectonically active region, making it vulnerable to earthquakes. The country lies along the boundary of the Indo-Australian and Eurasian tectonic plates, whose collision has shaped the region's geology and seismic activity over millions of years. The Indo-Australian plate is moving northward, colliding with the Eurasian plate. This collision creates immense pressure along the fault lines that mark the plate boundaries. The pressure builds up over time, and when it exceeds the strength of the rocks, it is released in the form of earthquakes. Myanmar's history is punctuated by earthquakes, a testament to its location in this seismically active zone. This earthquake serves as a stark reminder of the country's vulnerability to seismic events and the importance of earthquake preparedness measures.
Mandalay, Myanmar's second-largest city and a center of culture and history, found itself at the heart of the earthquake's devastation. Its proximity to the epicenter meant that the full force of the tremors ripped through its streets and buildings, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The earthquake's impact on Mandalay's infrastructure was immediate and severe. Buildings, some old and some new, crumbled under the stress of the tremors. Walls cracked and gave way, roofs collapsed, and the cityscape was left scarred with the wounds of the disaster. The once familiar skyline was now punctuated by the skeletal remains of buildings that had once stood tall. The earthquake's impact extended beyond the physical structures of the city. Essential services were disrupted, with power outages plunging neighborhoods into darkness. Water lines ruptured, cutting off access to clean water, and communication networks were disrupted, isolating residents from the outside world. The earthquake's impact extended far beyond the physical damage to buildings and infrastructure. It was a human tragedy, claiming lives, injuring thousands, and displacing countless others. The immediate aftermath of the earthquake was marked by a desperate search for survivors. Rescue workers, both local and international, toiled tirelessly amidst the rubble, their efforts a race against time to find and extract those trapped beneath the debris. Hospitals, overwhelmed by the influx of injured, struggled to cope with the scale of the disaster. As the dust settled, the true human cost of the earthquake began to emerge. The official death toll climbed steadily, each number representing a life lost, a family shattered. Thousands more were injured, some with life-altering injuries that would require long-term care and rehabilitation. Section 1. A nation mobilizes. The Myanmar government's response. In the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, the Myanmar government faced the daunting task of coordinating a response to a disaster of unprecedented scale. With communication lines down, infrastructure crippled, and the full extent of the damage still unknown, the government had to act swiftly and decisively. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the Myanmar government declared a state of emergency in the affected regions. This declaration served as a call to action, mobilizing resources, cutting through bureaucratic red tape, and empowering authorities to make swift decisions in the face of the crisis. The Myanmar military, a powerful force in the country, was deployed to assist with rescue and relief efforts. Soldiers, trained in disaster response, were dispatched to the hardest-hit areas, their presence bringing a sense of order and authority to the chaos. Section 3. The World Responds, International Aid and Assistance. As news of the earthquake spread, the international community responded with an outpouring of support. Governments, international organizations, and individuals from around the world pledged aid and offered condolences, demonstrating a shared sense of humanity in the face of tragedy. The United Nations, through its Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, or OCHA, activated its disaster response mechanisms, coordinating the global relief effort and ensuring that aid reached those who needed it most. International NGOs including the Red Cross, Médecins Sans Frontières, also known as MSF, and Oxfam, mobilized their teams and resources, deploying personnel and supplies to the affected regions. Their experience in disaster response and their commitment to humanitarian principles made them invaluable partners in the relief effort. Section 4. The Challenges of Relief, Logistics and Access. While the outpouring of support was immediate and heartfelt, the delivery of aid faced significant logistical challenges. Damaged roads, disrupted communication networks, and the sheer scale of the affected area hampered efforts to reach those in need. The earthquake's impact on infrastructure made it difficult to transport supplies from major cities to remote villages. Roads were blocked by landslides, bridges had collapsed, and airports were operating at reduced capacity, creating bottlenecks in the aid supply chain. The earthquake's impact on communication networks compounded the logistical challenges. With phone lines down and internet access limited, coordinating relief efforts and assessing needs in remote areas became increasingly difficult.
Section 1. Rebuilding Lives, Rebuilding Communities. As the initial shock of the earthquake subsides and the dust settles, the arduous task of long-term recovery and rebuilding begins. The physical scars left by the tremors run deep, but the resilience of the human spirit shines through as communities begin to pick up the pieces and rebuild their lives. The immediate focus shifts from rescue and relief to providing shelter, food, and medical care to those displaced and injured. Tent cities and temporary shelters, established in the aftermath of the disaster, become temporary homes for families who have lost everything. The psychological toll of the disaster, often less visible but equally profound, requires equal attention. Trauma counseling and psychosocial support programs are essential to help survivors cope with the emotional and psychological impact of the earthquake, fostering resilience and aiding in the healing process. Section 2. The Long Road Ahead, Infrastructure and Development. The earthquake's impact on infrastructure presents a formidable challenge to long-term recovery. Roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, and homes lie in ruins, requiring a comprehensive and coordinated rebuilding effort to restore essential services and create a foundation for future development. The reconstruction of homes and infrastructure presents an opportunity to incorporate disaster-resilient building practices. Building codes, updated to reflect the lessons learned from the earthquake, can ensure that new structures are better equipped to withstand future tremors, safeguarding lives and property. The rebuilding process extends beyond physical structures. Livelihoods disrupted by the earthquake's impact on businesses and agriculture require support to recover and thrive. Investing in economic recovery programs, providing microfinance opportunities, and supporting local businesses are vital for long-term economic resilience.